My 37 female husband, 38 male, and my affair partner met, and I don't know if it saved our marriage or destroyed it. Yesterday, as the title suggests, was a day I will never forget. Please accept my apologies for the length of this message. Believe it or not, I chopped certain areas to shorten the length. Anyway, I'd welcome any insight or advice anybody could provide me about my predicament. To provide some perspective, I, 37 female, have been married to my husband, 38 male, for 10 years. I had a physical affair with a guy last year for 3 weeks, despite the fact that we had been in touch for many months. My conscience couldn't handle it any longer, so I confessed. My marriage was, needless to say, ruined. My husband and I decided to work it out after some thought and meditation, despite the fact that the previous few months have been bumpy, which took a turn yesterday. My husband chauffeured me to a luxury resort. In my opinion, this was a huge chance to bond emotionally and maybe physically. Without the tiny one. Anyway, after about 10 minutes in the room, I heard a tap on the door, and it was my affair partner and his buddy. That was not what I expected. I felt ill to my stomach and began to weep as soon as I saw him. The only thing I wanted was to get out of that hotel and go someplace else. My husband pulled me aside and told me that he had hired a private investigator to seek him down. He found out where he lived, which I had no idea about, and invited him to a meeting. If he refused to meet, my husband threatened to go to his home and tell everything to his fiancée, whom I also had no idea he had. He was interested in learning all there was to know about our romance. Everything from how often we met to physical attributes to the itself was discussed. Of course, I told him how the affair began and other details, but I was cautious to discuss how my affair partner made me feel, and of course because of the guilt and embarrassment, I felt I avoided doing so. But the major reason was because I didn't want to harm my spouse any longer. He's always been a little self-conscious about his physique and our relationship in general. I'd been seeing a therapist since I confessed to the affair. She informed me that when it comes to infidelity, men, more than women, tend to concentrate on the physical elements of the affair. I didn't leave that hotel room because my spouse told me he wanted closure and to better comprehend what was going on. Basically, if I had gone out the door, our marriage would have been done. I had never seen him be so serious as when he stated it to me and looked me in the eyes. As a result, I remained. To cut a long tale short, the talk crushed my spirit. My affair partner arranged a buddy to stand outside the door and tell my husband everything. He told him how we met, how long we spoke, when we decided to make it physical, how frequently, when, and where. Basically, there wasn't anything that hadn't been addressed. As I previously said, he told my husband stuff that I had already told him, but he made certain that no specifics were left out. The saddest thing, though, was when my husband questioned him why he pursued me. We must have gone to the same high school, yet we never met. Because my spouse and I were high school sweethearts, I wasn't hanging around with other males at the time. He was my first and only love. So when he saw my photo on social media, he called me, and the rest is history. When my husband probed him on why he chose me, he stated it was because I had a lovely face and a fantastic rack. He said that based on our chats, he believed I was dissatisfied and that he wanted to punch me. Essentially, he lied to me every step of the way so that he could have with me. Destroyed isn't even close to describing how I felt. When there were no more questions, my husband requested me to wait on the balcony while he spoke with the other guy. He walked to the restroom after a little talk, and my husband followed. He started telling me about how the private investigator followed him for 2 weeks and discovered that he was engaged to a lady from a wealthy family. We discussed how she was most likely his meal ticket and how I was most likely not his first affair. Anyway, we discussed the dreadful dialogue that had occurred. I'm not sure how long it took, but my affair companion eventually emerged from the shower wearing a robe. When my husband and I returned, he had disrobed and was totally nude, with a full-on erection. I hurriedly looked aside, but my husband continued to stare at him. After what seemed like an eternity, he instructed the guy to get dressed, and that if he ever saw him near me again, he would tell his wife and do all he could to make his life miserable. As a result, he departed. To say the least, I was taken aback. Later, my husband said that he gave him 2 Viagra tablets to test how large his cock was since I wouldn't tell him. He wanted to know if he still measured up, and now that he knows the answer, he began to cry, which caused me to cry as well. He then revealed to me that he was a pig who preyed on women. He did say that he is glad he met him because it made him realize how neglectful he was to me and how it led me to a man like that. I made it a point to accept responsibility for the affair, but my husband wasn't having it. He made a vow to be a better father, friend, and husband. And now I'm here. I couldn't sleep last night, to be honest. We eventually returned home. I'd never stay in that hotel room. The problem is that I'm not sure how I feel about what transpired. I wouldn't have believed you if you told me last year that my spouse was capable of doing anything like this, going to such lengths. So, does anybody have any suggestions? I adore him, but I'm wondering whether the cost is too high. Not only to our life, but to our whole relationship. Is this something we can recover from? Any assistance would be much appreciated. Story 2. My wife is cheating on me for the past 10 months, but I can't divorce her right now. I was horrified when I discovered her 2-week-old romance with a colleague. I've been with her for 20 years and I still adore her. So, over the following month, I tried all I could to reclaim her affection. Doing her half of the housework, arriving home early from work to spend more time with her, presents DIY dates, but despite all of my efforts, the affair persisted and I gave up. I even attempted a subtle confrontation without telling her I suspected she was cheating, but she flatly lied to me. We last had during that 1-month period when I was attempting to win her back. When I heard she was working extra at a coworker's home, I would hide myself in the bathroom and scream for hours, but even those tears gradually dried up. Our kid is the sole reason I am not divorcing her. We have a wonderful and lovely 17-year-old daughter. My daughter has been studying for the admission test to her ideal institution, which she has wanted to attend since she was 10 years old. Now her exam is coming up in a few months, and she has been studying for it for the past 2 years, and if we both divorce, it will affect her both emotionally and mentally because she is very close to both of us, especially my wife. And I have seen cases where after parents divorce, the child gets into a very bad mental place. It will have a negative impact on her education, and she will lose out on this once-in-a-lifetime chance, which I do not want to happen in any way. I do not want to jeopardize her future because of my wife's faults. She has worked so hard for it and continues to do so every day. I spoke with a lawyer and have all of the proof of her infidelity, including screenshots of text conversations, images and videos of them, and phone records. I sometimes feel like a terrible failure for squandering 21 years of my life in this relationship, but then I remember my daughter and realize it was all worth it. I'll try not to tell her the true reason for our separation since I don't want to jeopardize her connection with her mother, who they both adore. This was more of a rant than a request for guidance. If you find my message confused, please accept my apologies. First, English is not my first language, and second, I am little inebriated.